Good morning. Hi, this is Assemblywoman Kati Petrie-Norris. Thanks so much for joining us for this week's Facebook Live Town Hall. Today, we are going to be talking about wildfire season and what you and your family can do to prepare. Really pleased to be joined by the Chief from the Orange County Fire Authority, Chief Brian Fennessy. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm humbled to be here.
Well, as I think most of us know, over the course of the last several years, California has experienced some of the most catastrophic, the most destructive wildfires in history. Seems like each and every year we have the worst wildfire season on record. And while so much of our collective focus has been on responding to the COVID-19 pandemic, wildfire season seems to be the one thing that COVID-19 is not going to cancel. So ensuring that we are prepared for wildfire season, ensuring that we have the technology, the equipment, the resources we need to fight wildfire season this year is a top priority for California and a top priority for me. So, so pleased to have you here with us, Chief Fennessy, to just share your perspectives and your advice to help the folks at home be better prepared. To kick us off, just can you introduce yourself and tell folks a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. No, I appreciate the invitation, and anytime we get an opportunity to educate and talk with the community, it's time well spent. I've been the fire chief here with the Orange County Fire Authority for about 2.5 years. For the 30 years prior to that, I worked for the city of San Diego, started as a firefighter there, and spent the last 3 years with the city of San Diego as its fire chief. And when the opportunity came to, there was a vacancy here in Orange County, I jumped at it. Orange County is a unique place to live. It's a unique place to work, and certainly the fire threat here is, unlike many places throughout the U.S. I started back in 1978 as a U.S. Forest Service hotshot, about probably a couple weeks out of high school, and spent 13 years with the Forest Service leading hotshot crew. So I think this is my 43rd year in the fire service. So I've been able to experience, fire seasons from the 70s through current. And you're spot on, Assemblywoman. The fire seasons we were experiencing these last few years are just incredible.
And so remind everybody, we've said, okay, wildfire season is here. What months are officially wildfire season for Orange County?
Well, we used to have a really defined season. Again, I remember back in the 70s and 80s when I worked, you could just about count on, July 1 is the start of fire season, and really ending about December 1, the rains would come. Now we share very publicly, and probably for the last 10 years plus, that we have a year-round fire season. Now, clearly there are months when, it's raining and you're not going to get a fire started, but we've seen large destructive fires in January, February, March. A few years back, we had those in May. There were 100-degree weather, Santa Ana winds. We don't get Santa Ana winds in May. Well, we do now. So we're seeing fires in California all months of the year now. Mother Nature is not behaving like she used to, 20 years ago. So we really profess it's a year-round fire season.
So it's a year-round season. Seems like the season every year gets more catastrophic, more deadly. What's going on? Why is the risk getting so much higher every year?
We in the fire service believe it does have to do with climate change. I mean, we are seeing warmer temperatures. The snowpack is certainly not what it used to be. We're seeing longer summers. It's not unusual now to have, very warm Christmases, those sorts of things. But we also, spent, many years in the periods of drought. And the drought is over, and that's a great map that's on the screen. The drought's largely over here. The vegetation that's out there on the sides of our hills, much of it died during the drought. In Southern California, you often hear that we live in a desert. We certainly are in a very arid part of the world. And our vegetation, our native vegetation is what we would consider drought resistant. So during the months, it can go, a few years without getting rain. The brush has a way of putting a waxy coat over itself and staying alive and that sort of thing. But during a drought, after many, many years of no rain like we experienced, that vegetation will dry and it will die. And that dead brush is still out on our hillsides. We have nice green, new vegetation. And so you don't always see it, but we've got a fuel load. And that's what we consider this vegetation is fuel out there that's pretty darn heavy. And the combination of weather and ignition and this dry fuel, and we're going to have devastating wildfires.
And just how easy is it for a devastating wildfire to start, under these conditions that you just described?
Well, I think we just experienced that this weekend out in Riverside County, and we're seeing that up in Los Angeles, and we had the potential here in Orange County. We upstaffed, what we call upstaffing this past weekend, where we kept our bulldozers, our hand crews, our helicopters staffed longer. We in Orange County, as the operational area, we sent 8 strike teams. We sent 40 engines to go assist Riverside County. And well, we dodged a bullet and didn't have any fires here. What they experienced in Riverside and what we experience here is a very rapid fire spread once we have that ignition. So a short answer to your question is very quick. People are amazed, and you'll see the interviews and go, wow, it was just a spot on the side of the road. Next thing I knew, it was climbing the hill. Right. I think it really surprises people how fast fire spreads this time of year.
And so we've got a question from one of the students, sort of a science question from one of the students in our district. How far can an ember travel and still start a fire?
A lot of that is really, has to do with how hard the wind is blowing and where it's blowing. We see ember cast, and again, if anybody, just to use kind of a recent fire, the fire in Riverside that many people saw in the news with a large smoke column and plume. Well, there are embers, which are, small pieces of the vegetation that are on fire that went up through that plume, and they spread outside that plume, and they can cause spot fires to occur, anywhere from 20 feet to 2 miles out. During the heavy wind conditions that we experience, it's not uncommon to see spot fires or those embers, and many of them are large. I've seen them as large as golf balls, baseballs. They can be blown out, easily 5 miles. So it's very difficult for us to catch up when you've got the main body of fire pushing embers out in advance and starting new fires. And that's what we're experiencing in Southern California these last few years, these fires that go to the ocean. We saw that in Malibu. We saw that in Ventura County the year before. We're seeing fire spread because of these blowing embers in ways we have never experienced before.
So before we jump into some just wildfire preparedness tips and answer some of the questions from people listening, can you just describe for us kind of a day in the life for your station, for your crews? What does that look like?
That's, God, you're going to take me there. I miss that. Sometimes I miss that. It's, our crews work, our standard shift is 48 hours on and 96 hours off. We have 3 shifts, an A, B, and C shift. So at any one time, a third of the workforce is on, and of course, 2/3 of the workforce is off. So they show up in the morning and they relieve the off-going crew. And usually there's a little bit of coffee, a little bit of banter, a little bit of newspaper, there's cleaning of the stations. And then they typically will go out about mid-morning and get their exercise. And it's important that firefighters stay physically fit. So we provide time for them to go to the park, to run. We provide weights and equipment in the stations because, again, this is a job where you have to be very, very physically fit. Mm-hmm. They'll shop at the store. They'll bring back lunch and dinner, maybe food to cook up for the rest of the afternoon. We'll go out and do fire inspections during the afternoon, and all the while they're responding to 911 calls. The alarm goes off and they're responding, and many times we get asked the question is, well, why do we take the fire engine to the grocery store? Well, it's not uncommon that the crew will have to run out of that grocery store, get on that fire engine and respond to fires. This time of year, it's not uncommon for the crews to be out and a vegetation fire occurs not only in county, but potentially out of county, where they could be gone for the next 14 days. So literally, as we're sitting here, an engine company could be out, get a call to respond to some other part of the state. No time to go back to the fire station to pick up their gear. They better have their stuff on that engine. And we may not see them for up to 14 days. So they always have to be prepared for not just the local fires, but supporting areas of the state through the mutual aid system.
And tell people how that mutual aid system works, because I know we've got a picture here showing your service area, but you also work really closely both with our local fire departments and, as you said, with fire departments across the state. So how does that work when there's a large fire that breaks out in another part of the state?
It's, it's amazing. It's California. The instant command system and mutual aid was born here in California. A lot of people don't realize that. I
didn't realize that. No.
Yeah, it is the most robust mutual aid system in the world. And in fact, it's mirrored, in other parts of the United States and other parts of the world. So, the system builds, starts small with a small fire. We send 5 engines, 2 trucks, blah, 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 and it builds. As it gets bigger, then we need a little help. We'll request help. And so our neighbors, the other cities, Anaheim, Newport Beach, some of the others, Laguna Beach, they'll come and assist. If the fire continues to get larger, then we'll ask for assistance from neighboring counties. And so we are what's called, I'll try to keep it not too complicated, but we are the Orange County Op Area, the Op Area Coordinator. So I will reach out to Los Angeles and see if they can assist. We'll get assistance from them. The fire continues to grow. Then the requests start going through Riverside, what we call South Operations, where they have access to all resources in Southern California, aviation resources, ground resources. It gets bigger, they go to Northern California. Ultimately, if we get very large, we're being supported by the National Fire Center in Boise, Idaho. So it's a pretty extensive system born after the 1970 fires. Here in California, where there was wide destruction and there was very little coordination. So again, the mutual aid agreement, you'll love this, the mutual aid agreement that we operate under now was developed in 1950 during the Earl Warren age. In fact, his signature is the Attorney General then in 1950, Earl Warren, is on the agreement. It's an existing agreement, still in effect.
So we've obviously, you mentioned that this mutual aid system evolved from some of the lessons we learned in the 1970s, and that there was a lack of coordination and sadly, unnecessary lives and destruction occurred. So what are some of the things, and I know there's some things we've been able to work on, now that we are in the 21st century, what are some of the things that we need to do now to bring kind of firefighting, to bring California's approach to emergency preparedness into the 21st century?
Well, there's a lot in place now, and technology is something that certainly we're leaning upon. What we're finding is many of the systems that we have in place in terms of resource ordering, statusing, those sorts of things are built around fires that what we used to consider a normal fire and spread. But over the last few years, we're seeing fire spread in ways that none of us has experienced before. So we're having to create unique ways of addressing that. And one of those ways is, the fire chiefs from Los Angeles City, Los Angeles County, Ventura County, myself, we have established with the support of the Governor's Office of Emergency Services, what we're calling the Expedited Response Plan. What we're finding in these fires is when LA County, Orange County, we need 100, 150 engines right now. The system is not fast enough to provide us that level of support within the first couple hours that we need them. However, between the 4 largest agencies here in Southern California, we can muster up that very quickly. And so we're working with Cal OES on some technology that will speed that process up, so it doesn't take the 4 largest agencies to be able to move resources like that. Other technology, and if you don't mind, I'll talk a little bit about something that you had a big part
Yes,
in.
please do.
It's called the FIRES program. It's the Fire Integrated Real-Time program that is aviation based. It's largely taking what the military has done in wartime theater for many, many years and applying it here with wildland fires, actually putting a platform, a fixed wing platform over a fire, in a pressurized aircraft well above the tactical aircraft, and providing us video, real-time video, heat video, a fire perimeter. Because, and really, and what I loved about working with you, Assemblywoman, is how we communicated the simplicity of the program. When there's a fire, what's the first question you get? The first question I get is, do we have a fire? And if so, well, how big is it? And then the second question, or the third, is always, well, where is it going?
Right.
And this program does that. It very quickly, within the first 5 minutes of arriving at the fire, will tell you exactly how large it is, and they'll send you a map to your phone, to your desktop, and using UCSD's supercomputer and some first of its kind wildfire spread modeling will give us where it's going in the next 20 minutes, 30 minutes, hour. So we can start to prepare evacuations. We can I mentioned those precious resources that take time to get into the county. We can take the few we have and put them in those most exposed areas. Nobody else is doing that anywhere in the country, in the world. It all started here as a pilot program, thanks to your help. And it's expanding now for the rest of the state because of that.
Which I think is so exciting. And I was so pleased to work with you on that. So proud that we were able to secure funding in last year's state budget for that pilot project, and thrilled that it actually demonstrated its capacity to save lives, save property. I think I shared this with you. I come from the business world, and I worked for many years in financial services in the banking industry, and we use vast amounts of data. There's vast amounts of analysis to understand, how did customers behave? What do people do? What's the right thing to do right now? And I was struck by when you came to first talk to me about virus, about the fact that a lot of the times we are not giving our first responders or our folks who are on the front lines all the data and all the information that they need to make the best decision possible. So I think that this really is going to be a step change in ensuring that that we do that, and that your folks have the best data, the best technology, the best information, so that they can make the best decisions and save lives and property across the state. So thrilled that you've continued to for your continued leadership and advocacy to take that statewide. Now I want to get into a handful of questions we've got for some folks at home. Okay, so I live in Irvine, and I am about to buy a home, and someone told me that it's in the wildland urban interface. How risky is that? And maybe, Chief, maybe you can, to start, can you tell everybody what do we mean when we say wildland urban interface?
This is we shorten it to WUI, right? W.
Okay.
So that's the cool way. You want to dazzle your
Got it.
You live in the WUI. When they look at you funny, you tell them, well, no, you live in the wildland urban interface. And, I think most people would be surprised, but 30% of the population in this state are located in this WUI area. We have, developed and put our homes. I mean, this is, we live in an arid environment. We live in a fire environment. And what we've been sharing, the fire service has for many years, is we need to learn how to live in the environment that we've chosen to live. And so, in those areas where we abut, the wildland areas, whether they be islands, whether it be the national forest, whether it be, an urban island of maybe just a few acres, below your homes. Those are all areas that are susceptible to burn. And so what we, really ask the community to do, and really encourage them to do, is to prepare their property, defensible space, to harden their homes. Because I cannot tell you how many times over my 40 plus years that people will tell you, I just didn't think it would happen here. And they're surprised at how fast wildfire moves, and they're surprised at you know, it takes a long time to get resources in place. So, you know, even if you're not living on the edge, wildland fire edge, we talked about the embers, that we talked about blowing them. It is not uncommon, you know, for homes that are many blocks away or streets away even from where the fire is coming off the landscape, for fires to occur. You get one of those embers into your attic space because you don't have wire screening, or into your ornamental vegetation, you may be evacuated and gone. And that fire can start sometimes hours after you've evacuated, you know, blocks away from where the fire front is. So, yes, I mean, we are all affected by fire in Southern California.
And you started to talk about this a little bit, but another question: how can I ember proof my home or landscaping? What should I be doing?
Well, you know, we profess that you know, you provide us 100 feet of defensible space, which allows us, the firefighters, to get in there and you know, while you're evacuated, protect your homes. If we can't get, because we can't park a fire engine in every driveway, there's just not enough resources. If people have done, you know, the defensible space, many times that's enough for fire to burn itself around, you know, a home or an apartment building, whatever it may be. There's a lot of things that, you know, viewers can do, and much of it is up on our website. It's www.ocfa.org. We have, I mean, volumes of information that people can print out. There's videos. Again, there's, you know, double painting of windows, there's boxing of eaves, there's wire mesh for your attic space. And again, just don't assume that because you do not live on the canyon edge that you're out of danger. No, when the winds blow, those embers will travel great distances. And so people just need to be very aware that we do have to live with with fire in Southern California.
Right, and that it's the risk is just part of the reality. You know, and one good thing right now is that a lot of folks are spending more time at home. I know my husband and I have been doing more like DIY projects over the weekends than we have in years. So now is the perfect time for folks to fireproof their homes, to establish that defensible space. So if people want kind of a checklist, a to-do list, they can go to your website, which is, and I think we'll share these links on the Facebook Live, but ocfa.org, correct?
It's all there, yes. I mean, there's copious amounts. And you said it, you know, you've also got to pick the time, you know, to do that defensively. If it's hot and dry out, probably not the time to be out there using mechanized equipment and taking the weeds down. You know, we really encourage people to wait for the cooler hours of the day when it's more humid. It doesn't take much. A spark is all it takes sometime. And it's sad to see people doing the right thing sometime, but during the wrong time of day, and then a fire starts, and we have to come out and suppress it.
And we've got a graphic here with some, some of the info from your website. So this is, you know, if folks go to ocfa.org, this is the, I guess the entryway into all kinds of useful and practical tips. All right, next question. My neighbor has a go bag. Do I need one?
Yes, you need a go bag. You know you need a go bag.
That is a question from a viewer.
Right?
All right.
Everybody needs a go bag.
Tell us.
Right?
Okay, so what's a go bag? What's a go bag? What's in your go bag, Chief?
Well, you know, a go bag, you know, it's just those things that, you know, are going to supply you and your family for, you know, 72 hours. If you know, we're seeing this all the time now with the fires, right? I didn't know, you'll hear the people in the news report, I didn't think the fire was that close. Next thing you know, it was there. All I could do is take the, you know, clothes on my back and I was gone. I wish I'd have spent, you know, some time putting together, they may or may not call it a go bag, but, you know, something that's going to sustain me for at least 72 hours and my family. Is it pet food? It could be a big bag, could be a small bag, could be several bags. You know, what about my medications? What about all the things I'm going to need when I'm in an evacuation center and I can't go back to my house and get that? How am I going to take care of my pets? Do I need food? Do I need all of those things? If you just think for a moment that, or just do an exercise with your family, we've got 2 minutes to get out of here. What are those things that we need? And as people make a list, as families make a list, they'll figure out pretty quick after they're done with that 2 minutes that they missed a lot of stuff. Don't wait for that last 2 minutes. Put a bag together, toothpaste, or all your car, all those things you need to go. We talk about ready, set, go a lot. And again, we've got a very robust website that has ready, set, go information on it, as do most fire departments, as does the state of California. You have to be prepared. And a go bag is just one of those things you've got in your front closet, by your front door, wherever it may be, that you can quickly, grab and go. If you've got more time, right, when you're preparing and ready, set, you may want to, think about, if you've got more time, your hard drive from your, computer, some of those, your photographs, some of those things that if you lost, you could never replace. But a go bag is just a quick grab and go, because we are seeing, and you're seeing it throughout the state, the people that are reporting, gosh, I thought the fire was out there, opened the door and the fire was there, and all I could do.
And that actually, I think, brings me to another sort of important topic I want to hit on, which is, in case of fire, what should people do? So, gosh, was it 2 summers ago, Laguna, the Aliso fire started to come over the hill.
Yes.
And we evacuated all top of the world. The neighborhoods up there were evacuated. So, if we start to smell smoke, if we hear news reports about a fire, do we need to start getting our go bag to evacuate? Like, how do we know it's time to evacuate?
That's a great question, because too often I think, residents are waiting for an official, hey, it's time to go. And many times that happens, but many times it does not. Law enforcement is, tasked with the actual evacuation. We usually determine where that evacuation has to be, and we'll get involved in it. But what we tell people is, look, if you're seeing, smelling the smoke, if you have any concern at all, that's the time to evacuate. Don't wait. Again, how often are people saying, man, I just did not think the fire was going to, I was out of my driveway, the fire was way out there, I came out 5 minutes later and it's in my backyard. I mean, we hear those stories time and time again. And what's really, if you looked at statistically, when we have suffered the most civilian loss during these large fires, it's generally during an evacuation and in people's cars. They've waited to the last moment to evacuate, or they think, hey, I'm just going to ride it out. The fire hits, it's worse than they expected. Now they decide to go. That's a bad time to go, because now you could be in traffic, trapped in your car. We can't, we, the fire trucks, can't get into the neighborhoods. So when we say to evacuate, or if there's any concern, it's just best to go. And what I will share with you, and you and I have had this conversation with COVID-19, some of the concerns the fire service has this year is, are people going to be less willing to leave their homes to go to perhaps a shelter that does not have, the social distancing in place, or some of the things that we've, asked. And I just had a great conversation with the Red Cross last week, and they've assured us that they are, addressing those issues, that they will be securing apartment bill or hotels and other ways, but that is big on their minds, that they will have a population that they will need to support now, and not necessarily in the traditional manner that they have in the past. But at the end of the day, if we're asking you to evacuate, your lives in danger, and we really need you to evacuate.
Well, and that's good. It's good to hear that the Red Cross and other groups are thinking through the logistics, which are going to be that much more challenging in this COVID-19 era, ensuring that people feel safe evacuating and feel like they are going to not be putting themselves, leaving one disaster for another. But I think what I just really want to reinforce is the point you made, which is that I guess 2 points. Number one is you may not always get the official evacuation warning, right? Because sometimes cell phones might be down, communication lines may be severed. If it seems like you're at risk, better safe than sorry, you should leave. And then the second point you made is if you do get the official request or the official order to evacuate, people have to listen. And I'm sure you've seen so many, too many heartbreaking stories where people did not listen and didn't evacuate until it was sadly too late.
Yeah, it's tragic when that occurs. And again, I think it just, people are taken by surprise at how fast, fires will move, during these windy conditions. And we're trying to get resources in to protect the homes, and when we can no longer focus on suppressing the fire, we have to now become really the rescue resources. The fire is going to continue to burn. We cannot put it out if instead we're rescuing people that should have left way sooner and did not heed those warnings. So it just compounds the problem.
And before we wrap up, I'll just say this is always a good, like every year, this is our first virtual one, but last year we did an in-person town hall focused on wildfire preparedness. And that was actually when I first put together my family's go bag. This conversation is a really good reminder to take a look at that and make sure it's up to date and in fact ready to go. So thank you so much for being here and joining us. Are there any other any kind of parting words for folks at home, or anything else that you'd like to share before we wrap up?
Thank you. I appreciate the invitation. Again, it's humbling to work with you, and I really do want to thank you for your being so proactive with all of the emergency service, with the police departments, the sheriff's office, and I'd like to remind people that we are focused right now on wildland fire, but many of these the go bag is going to be important whether we're experiencing an earthquake, a flood. Here in California, we have year-round disasters. We'll get through the fire season, we always do. But if we, experience a lot of loss, and our hillsides are bare, and we get a rainy season, we're going to be dealing with mud flows and those sorts of things. Citizens need to be prepared year-round and not just for fire season. Those things you would do to prepare for fire season are applicable year-round for other disasters. Southern California, Orange County are just wonderful places to live. Right. But we have our share of risk in this county. But your law enforcement and your fire agencies in this county are well prepared to deal with those.
Well, thank you again, Chief, for being here. And thank you to you and to your entire team for all that you do. I know that wildfire season is upon us, and this year it is in the midst of this unprecedented pandemic. And I know that your folks are working just around the clock on the front lines, meeting the needs of our community and keeping our community safe in this moment. So thank you so much for being here and for all you do.
Thank you very much.
All right. And thank you everyone for joining us for your questions, and we will see you back here next week. Be well.